Hey everybody, it's your girl Nadia, also known as Urban Farm Sister. So today I'm going to talk about ripening versus maturity. Let's first talk about maturity. So maturity is when a fruit fully develops and is ready to be picked. At this stage, the fruit, say we're talking about a tomato, it has been allowed to mature on the plant. It has gone from green to red or whatever color tomato you're growing. The seeds inside of there are mature, so if you collected those seeds, you will be able to use them to grow a new plant. The fruit itself, the tomato itself, it will be soft, it will be sweet, it won't be so acidic and things like that. Now, maturity differs from ripening. Reason being, ripening is part of the maturity process. If you are allowing the fruit to mature on the plant, it would get to that ripening stage when I talked about the color change and all that stuff. But ripening is driven by a gas called ethylene. Plants produce this gas on their own out in nature. Humans, we've been able to recreate the ethylene gas, and we have synthetic ethylene gas that we use that we can ripen fruit. What that does is that it softens the texture. So when you're growing, if you've ever grown a plant and it's a flowering plant and you're producing some type of fruit on that plant, you'll notice that the fruit, as it develops, it starts out really hard. Most of the time it's green, but as it starts to mature and then finally get to the ripening stage, it will start to soften. And that is part of ripening. That's what ethylene actually causes. It causes the texture to soften. It also will cause a color change. Using the tomato as an example, the tomato will go from green to red or whatever color that tomato is that you're growing. Also, what happens is that along with that hard texture, a lot of that is produced by complex starches. So when you have a immature fruit and it's green, it's nothing but starch at that point. But what happens when ethylene is released and the fruit is starting to ripen, that starch gets converted to simple sugars, one of those being fructose, and that's why your fruit becomes sweet. During this time also, ethylene will stimulate and cause the fruit to start giving off aromas, and so that is an attractant to animals that are going to consume that fruit. Also, that color change can be attractant as well. Things like red fruits a lot of times attracts birds and things like that. So ripening is preparing the fruit to become completely mature and ready to be consumed so that those seeds that are inside of there can be spread. There are some fruits that can be ripened off of a plant, and then there's some fruits that you cannot get to ripen after you pick them. If you pick them too early, they're just not going to ripen. The ones that can be ripened off the plant are called climacteric fruits. So these are the fruits like tomatoes, bananas, peppers. If you either gas them with ethylene, or like in a banana case, you can put it inside of a brown paper bag, and these fruits will release their own ethylene, and they will trigger that ripening stage, and it will cause the tissues to soften, the color to change, and it become a little bit sweeter. It does not mature though off of the plant. So I can take immature fruit and I can force ripen it, but it doesn't mean that it's mature. It doesn't mean that the seeds inside of there are going to be maturing after it's been removed from the plant. The plant itself is what triggers the seed maturity. It grows those seeds. Seeds will not mature. If they didn't mature and you pick that fruit, they're not going to mature off the plant anymore. But you can get a ripe fruit. So then there's another group of fruits called non-climacteric fruits. These are fruits that will not ripen off of the plant. There you can gas them with as much ethylene as you want to, and they will not ripen. They have to stay on the plant for them to ripen. Now, even if you leave them on the plant, you can still pick them too early to where they didn't fully ripen, and that can affect the texture, that can affect the color, the flavor, as well as the sweetness, and it can also affect the maturity of the seeds that are inside of there. So some examples of fruits that do not ripen off the plant are melons. You can't get a watermelon. Once you cut a watermelon off, it's not going to ripen any more than when you picked it off of there. Another example would be strawberries. If you pick a strawberry and it was starting to turn red and you picked it but it wasn't fully ripened, it's not going to get any more red. It's not going to get any more sweeter. That's just basically what you're going to have. So I hope this helps. I hope you understand. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comments, or you can send me a DM and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. All right. Thanks. Bye.